we've just completed a low-budget feature, and in promoting a few test screens, we did a little bit of quirky online stuff through Facebook. The film's about a stalker, and it's his video diary and his sort of dedication of love, and a sort of an instructional video for other guys to help make them better romances. But in doing that, we started getting a little bit of an online following. And I'm just wondering, as people looking to purchase product, it didn't occur to me to not just come to you with a film, but also with a sort of pre-built audience starting. Is that something that would be of interest? Or, and I guess so what I'm also saying is, you know, with barely any money to make a film, yet to start an online viral sort of world, as soon as you start it, as you know, you have to keep perpetuating it. So would you think it's wise or unwise to launch too early with a viral campaign as well?
And the first thing is that it's if it's working for you, it's a positive and it's something to bring to the table. So the first thing is that you've gone out and you put yourself out there and you've got some great signs, and I think that's terrific to bring to the negotiation and support for your pitch. I think also too it's really unusual. And I just hark back, and we get plenty of test scores from screenings from the studio, and we'll get they've just had another one in Iowa, and test scores are through the roof. The top two boxes are 83%, definite, excellent scores at 27, which is 10 above the norm, and we go through it and who it appealed to. And then the film launches and it collapses, and you say, well, what the hell's gone on? We've had a look at the research scores and all the rest of it. It's an extreme chasm between getting the people in the cinema and them seeing it, usually for free, by the way. They're recruited audiences and the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly launching it on the weekend and saying, you know what, stump up $15, get out of your home and go and see it. And there's an extraordinary, multitude of factors that go between the actual film enjoyment, and it's there. Don't get me wrong. If you can actually get people into the cinema and see it, they're going to give you some great scores sometimes. Conversely, that they mightn't like it too for other films. So I've got to say, just on that thing, it is great, it is a positive, but then again, I just know some of the other factors. It is all those multitude of things of saying, the film, how do we get it in front of people, but get them to see it and stuff. And that's probably when the distributor really does need to come to the fore with the skill and expertise to convert what you have, polish it, make that whatever you've got, the best it can be, and the most, as I said, that there's awareness and interest, but there's got to be that got to see. There's got to be that I'm going to pay my $15 and I am going to see it in the cinema.
Now, Martha, there's a number of projects that sometimes they're still in development or they're in pre-production, and they're already launching something online to build an audience. Do you think it's wise to start building the audience or to learn from that audience and their feedback at the development stage?
I think it really depends on the type of film that it is. I mean, again, that would be something that our marketing department would very much sort of, work with the distributor. Just on, to add to what Stephen was saying, when I worked for New Line, there was a film called Snakes on a Plane that had a huge internet awareness. It was this huge cult film before it came out. I don't know if you remember it. And New Line were really, really excited about this. People were wearing T-shirts before the film came out. There was a massive online audience for this film, and it completely tanked at the box office. And they never figured out why. They still don't know why. So, go figure. I mean, But yeah, in terms of, I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. I think Stephen's absolutely right. If it's working with you, that's absolutely fantastic. It's not going to work for all films. And I think that, really that's something that the marketing people and the distributors and the producers would work together to kind of figure it out.
Now, Christopher, of course, it's the work of the producer and the production company with the distributor, but in your experience, have you been able to build audiences by launching online materials before the release? Is this really something that brings people to the cinema when the film is released?
Yeah, look, it's a very important part of today's releasing of films. One thing that is absolutely critical as well is that you do work with your distributor, or at least work with people that have got experience. There's certainly been films where they've released content online and it was a mistake, that it's probably damaged a film more than if they had actually withheld that. We're going through a killer elite at the moment, and we're incredibly paranoid around material. Not because the quality of it, it's just because sometimes you don't want to peak too early either. It's about building up a momentum. Look at the election in Melbourne. There's an example of momentum that builds right at the end. Look at the federal election. There's an example of where momentum built and then dropped off. So it's very similar in the film industry, not trying to bring too many parallels, but where you want to try and get things to a peak at the time of release. With Tomorrow When the War Began, Facebook was one that we really drove hard. I'll admit that we had an alternative as well in parallel, which was building a website. And we watched the traffic on that, and they'd click and play and then see the Facebook link, bang, straight off to that. And everyone went to Facebook and never came back. So we then went, okay, we'll keep some rich material on that website, but we drove everything through Facebook. And I think we're up to about 80,000 fans now, and we had around 70,000 released. For this country, that's amazing, but it came with a lot of energy around being very strategic on releasing material and making sure that you still had things left in your pockets to put back out leading up to the release.
I might just add too that, you know, for producers, and it's do your homework too on the distributors out there, and some will be more receptive at different times. It depends on how full their slate is. Some distributors are better or more open to edgy horror, dark thriller movies. And you look at the scope from the Madmans and, you know, the Hopscotches and Sharmell films all the way through to obviously the big MPA, American Hollywood studios. And there are quite a few in there. In fact, there's names on the box office charts I just don't recognise. I haven't heard of them, but they're out there and they're swinging. So, you know, I just go back and do some study on there. And as I said, some people have a domination of some genres sometimes and things. And some studios go through downtimes and they need product. I mean, that's what happens. And some of us, I mean, in 2012 that we're looking at, we've got about as full a slate as I could imagine. I have never seen a slate like it. So that's going to be a difficult one for us to have a look at local acquisitions for that particular year and stuff. And someone brought a pretty good project through to us the other day that we're unable to do anything with. It's an animated film, actually, and some other studios. But we've got a connection with Sony Pictures Animation. They're really, starting to ramp up. We've also made a very long-term commitment with Aardman Animation out of Bristol in the UK. So there's some things that preclude us to go to a project that we'd like to as well. But so I just say to the producers, do a little bit of homework, do a bit of research, and have a look what's going on around the place.
Now, Al, as a producer, your relationship with distributors, and in particular in terms of the online element, is there anything that you want to share about the online component, working with distributors?
Only that once the avalanche of piracy starts, as it did with Red Hill about 4 weeks ago, it's unstoppable. I mean, no matter how great your piracy police, you can never stop it. And it's just astonishing how corrosive it now is. It means that if your core audience is 15 to 29-year-old males, as I mentioned, you can have it decimated by a 4-week wave of piracy. That's my feeling about the online component, which is that the online component erodes, sometimes destroys everything that you are orchestrating not online.
So the online element represents at the same time opportunity, but there is also an element of fear at this stage.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that certainly when I used the word paranoid, I used it for a good reason. That's probably just been explained by Al. You can be lucky with people that are downloading and sharing, that the word of mouth builds from it, but generally it will impact slightly on your audience. We've got a film called The Loved Ones that slightly crazily went up against Jackass, but there's reasons behind that for that distributor. Couldn't move the date, but certainly we're still in negotiations for release in other territories. And the online chatter for that film has been really quite extraordinary. And we hope to make announcements about a release on that in North America as well. So the piracy on that occasion hasn't impacted it. It's actually helped it because it's quite strong. But I think that's one of the rare occurrences where it can help.